Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. I'm Bill Pucko, along with Tariq Spence. Tariq, how you doing this week?
Feeling pretty good. Happy to be in a fresh new month of May.
Yeah, and Pat Duffy. What you wearing, man? I can see a little peek of it.
Yeah, it's only the best baseball logo in the history of professional baseball. It's a 1991 Toronto Blue Jays Roberto Alomar batting pullover. It's got pockets. And how about this? The best part. How beautiful is this 91 Toronto All-Star game? Look, how beautiful is that patch? That's a beautiful patch.
Pretty good.
I'm feeling pretty good today.
Tariq, let's talk some baseball first. Look, Major League Baseball's got the identity of being like you're really stuck in the past and everything, but we've got 7-inning doubleheaders. We got runners at second base, and in the minor leagues, they're trying out a couple of things. In Double-A, they're playing with infielders having to keep at least 1 foot in the dirt at the pitch to prevent shifts. And we got a home run derby proposal to break ties in the Pioneer League. What do you think?
All right, so let me start with the in the dirt rule. I don't mind the in the dirt rule. I saw that it'll stop the shift. I'm okay with it playing it that way. I mean, you can still line your defense, but I guess their feet have to be on the dirt in the infield. So I'm good with that. The home run derby thing, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not into that. I mean, I get it. It's extra innings. You don't want to throw out too many pitchers. I get all that. You want to save your arms, but I will suggest this for the home run derby thing. Bring it to the Major League Baseball All-Star game. I actually would want to shorten that game down to 7 innings, but I understand you got to get everybody in the game. 9 innings is fine. Bring it to the All-Star game. Nobody wants to see an extra inning All-Star game, and it would be great to see who the managers would pick for that home run derby to end that game, because the home run derby gets bigger ratings than the game anyway.
You know what you'd have? It'd be unprecedented. You'd have everybody watching that game rooting for a tie. There is no other circumstance where somebody wants a tie. Pat, where do you come down on this stuff?
All right, the home run derby thing's ridiculous because that's just eliminating the sport of baseball. It's like 3-on-3 overtime in hockey to get a point. Like, I hate that. But the feet in the dirt rule, I'm with Tariq. I like this idea. And there's precedents in other professional sports that have changed because defenses got too good. I mean, let's face it, man. Unless you're a baseball purist like Bill, and I hear you over there sighing already, you hate this shift rule because it's either home runs or an out. Look, you look at basketball, right? There's a reason you can't spend 3 seconds inside the square there. You look at hockey. The New Jersey Devils created a defense that is now illegal to play in the late 90s and early 2000s. Sometimes coaches, athletes get so good, you have to adjust. And I think this is an example of Major League Baseball having to adjust to the minds and bodies that didn't exist 60, 70 years ago in Major League Baseball.
But it's a total shift in philosophy. I mean, now it looks like they're willing to go in and play with the game. And you got me wrong. I like this stuff. I like the runner at second base because I'd seen it out of Frontier. And I like the feet in the dirt because the stats that are being waved around right now is that the strikeout rates right now are at its highest point ever. You got to get the ball into play. And batting averages are the lowest since 1968 when they reacted to it to lower the mound. So these trends, I mean, maybe some of this, Tariq, will help.
Well, I mean, I want to go back to what Duffy said with the home run derby thing. Is it a possibility that baseball is trying to cater to a lot of people who are betting on sports? And the reason why I say that is because I run into a lot of people who are talking about sports and they're betting on these games. So is this some way to try to get more people interested in the game? Baseball is to try to bring in gambling. If I would have brought that up in 1991, people would have thought I was crazy. I would have get kicked out of baseball.
Yeah, but I think the home run derby does the opposite thing for gambling. Look, man, I mean, you have 2 teams matching up against each other. You have 2 starting pitchers. You have all of this data to deal with. And if there's one sport that loves data, it's Major League Baseball. And then I have my money running on whose bat is faster, who's stronger, how a team is built for a home run overtime to win a game. No, thank you. And how do you do that with point spreads? Like, it's almost impossible. I mean, I understand more eyes on it from a casual fan. That makes sense. But I think if you had a home run derby to win games, it has the opposite effect of getting gamblers interested in Major League Baseball.
It's also the most complex to bet. I mean, I'll bet on anything that moves, but I look at the form sheet on baseball. It's like, what does all this mean? This kind of tough. And we are the Rochester Press Box. We're talking Buffalo Bills next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay & Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Obviously, the Buffalo Bills ownership situation has been a huge deal since Ralph Wilson passed away. We're about a month and a week since that fateful day, and I am all on board, folks, believe it or not, with Donald Trump.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box, talking Buffalo Bills. Pat, I had a blast looking at some of the research I did. This is past Buffalo Bills drafts. Some of the best, some of the worst, some of the players that went. As you look back on the history of the Bills, what sticks out to you as far as the Bills' ability to draft?
I mean, well, it depends on what era you're talking, right? If you're talking 1983 up until 1994, the Bills were unbelievably unstoppable. Like some of the names you pull out there, Jim Kelly, obviously, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, the first overall pick. But you have diamonds in the rough, your Andre Reeds, right? Guys that show up and end up being Hall of Famers. I mean, Cornelius Bennett's a draft trade. He didn't draft it, but just the names of these defenses and offenses that live on littered with stars. And then right after you draft Todd Collins and you start moving in that direction, the Todd Collins, Eric Moulds era, right? It becomes a complete tire fire. Like it is a disaster. The names that you see in the top 3 rounds. And if you're not a diehard Bills fan from the year, I'm going to say, I'll say 1997 until just within the last few years, you have no idea who's half of these people are drafted in the first 3 rounds.
Well, so it's funny. One of the ones that I singled out, I don't know if these players mean a lot to you, is 1976. Is that a little too early? The Bills, the Bills off the top of this draft took Mario Clark, Ken Jones, Joe Devlin, and Ben Williams with their first 4 picks. Those guys were all impact players. This is one of the best drafts in their history. And some oddities there. There were 23 players the Bills chose in 17 rounds. They had 15 picks in the first 9 rounds that year. There was like some real craziness going on. But those players were guys that were still there in the 80-81 teams, the Joe Ferguson, Joe Cribbs teams, that made the playoffs. That was a great draft. Just one of many, Pat.
Yeah, but I mean, that goes to show you how different the NFL was, where you could draft someone in 1976, a whole core of a team, and have them still be there 7 years later, guaranteed to help you make a step forward, right? Like, it's so weird now that we talk about this rookie window, right? We, the Bills, have to be successful within the next 3 years, or else you're out of money, and you got to hope Josh Allen sticks around long enough where it catches you on the back end. I mean, different eras, man.
But wait a minute, Bill. Back then, they had like how many rounds? Like 17 rounds?
Well, it was 17. They drafted Ernie Davis, 1962, with their number 1 pick. Ernie Davis, of course, went to Syracuse University and contracted leukemia, never played in the NFL. He died before the season started.
Which, by the way, is one of the saddest stories ever, because all he wanted to do, now, was it before the season started or was it during the season? Because he wanted to dress and play for the... Okay, I'm sorry.
At least he was sick prior to the season. I'm not exactly sure when it was he passed.
I remember hearing a story that all he wanted in the world was to put on a Browns uniform and play a snap in the NFL, because that was his dream, and he never got to do it. Whereas if he would have signed that AFL contract, I mean, it's not the NFL, but he would have had a game of professional football if that's what his dying wish was.
Yeah, and again, if you don't know the story, he won the Heisman Trophy at Syracuse in 1961, and then was drafted by the Browns and the Bills in '62, and he never played in the NFL because he passed a leukemia, which was detected obviously after the draft. The Bills had drafted him 4th that year. I think he was the number 1 overall in the NFL, but that is a sad story. But again, I think we agree that probably the Kelly Reed draft was the best ever.
Well, I mean, let's see what happens with Josh Allen, right? You could have Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, and talk to me in 15 years, and we'll see how it goes, man.
And I like revisionist history too. This is one thing that I've always thought about. When they drafted Jim Kelly, the Bills probably never get to a Super Bowl if Kelly doesn't go to the USFL.
Yep.
Because he plays in Houston for a couple of seasons. The Bills are so bad they get to draft Bruce Smith. And then all the pieces fall together, and suddenly they're the super team. But if Kelly purports right to Buffalo, the Bills never get Bruce Smith, and they probably don't get to a Super Bowl. Where the Rochester Press Box, like it or not, is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
All of these things show Josh Allen has a strive for greatness inside of him.
Falcon Around with Carl Falk. New episodes every Tuesday on Rock Sports Now.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Are you facing criminal charges from a DWI and feel that you never imagined it could happen to you? Contact attorneys with years of experience as prosecutors and defenders. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today for a free consultation. You can put your trust in us.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box, a section of the Press Box brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law Firm. Attorneys with years of experience defending the accused don't go unprepared. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today. Tariq, expanding the NCAA football playoffs to as many as 12 teams. It's currently 4. What do you think?
Do it, because all the other bowl games really don't matter. Anybody who wants to see their team in, there's never enough teams in. There's always somebody saying, I want to be in the team, I want to be in the bubble, and how come we're not in there? And I'm upset about it. You know what? Play your way in. Play your way in now. Find a way to get yourself into a championship series. If you beat these teams, you get to go. Now we got no complaints, of course, but of course the 14th team, the 13th team, and the 14th team is going to be upset that they're not in it. And of course, we'll expand it again. I think it's no more than 12. If you're not good enough to be one of the top 10 or top 12 teams in football, you shouldn't be playing in any championship or any playoff.
You made the argument as to why you don't expand it to 12 teams, Tariq, right? Because, again, 13, 14, and 15 are going to argue why it doesn't happen. And look, we've only had 4, and the majority of these playoff games have been massive blowouts. What happens when you have 12 playing 1? If Notre Dame can't hang with Alabama, 3 out of 5, however many years, what chance does Boise State? What chance does the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, or, the whatever? I mean, bro, it would be a nightmare. It would be unentertaining. We think it would be great because we get more football, but it would just be terrible football for 4 weeks. Keep it the way it is. Tell everyone to shh. Who cares?
This is why we follow sports. We wait for the biggest upset to happen. This is why we're here. We're waiting for a Boise State to beat a Notre Dame. We're waiting for a Michigan to win a championship, if they ever did, and not lose to Appalachian State. I won't go back to that. But we wait for these moments. We live for these moments. We love to laugh at these moments. The juggernaut gets beat. David beats Goliath. We love it.
But you are using college basketball logic with college football games, man. You're right. In the tournament, it's amazing when a 15 beats a 2, when a 13 beats a 3, right? But you know what happens? They play again 2 days later. If you do this in college football, you have 3 weeks leading up to the initial blowout, then another week to the next blowout, then another week till maybe we get an entertaining game. It's just too much time. I'm out. No, thank you. I'm done.
Hey, Pat, just so we do this quickly, like it or not, the proposal to change the NFL uniform number code.
Oh, I love it because, there are different numbers you can wear based on different position. I don't think they took it far enough. All I want is a big fat guy wearing double zeros on the field somewhere. Because if I'm not mistaken, I know the offensive linemen have to keep their 70s, 60s, and 50s numbers. I think the D linemen do as well. Until I see a 330-pound man with a big 0 on his chest, the NFL has not gone far enough.
I like that with a single digit, or go to 3 digits. What would happen if they went to 3 digits, Duffy?
I'm in on that.
But for the old timers, Jim Otto, 00, Hall of Fame. This is the Rochester Press Box, a segment brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law. Unfinished Business is next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one. Score!
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. Time for Unfinished Business. As always, Pat Duffy starts us off.
So apparently Jake Paul is a person who's young and has a YouTube channel, and that's how he got famous. I don't really know who this guy is. I know him kind of because he's been boxing people that aren't actually boxers on television, and now he's stepping up to do actual boxing, or so they want to sell us. Floyd Mayweather, arguably the pound-for-pound greatest fighter in boxing history, is going to fight this YouTube star, and they're going to sell it on pay-per-view via Showtime. I love boxing. I watch boxing very often, and right now boxing is very, very good. Middleweight all the way up to heavyweight. This is a disaster. It's a joke. And it's a signal that folks don't know what they're watching when they're tuning into a fight. We saw it earlier with Mayweather-McGregor. Folks that believed legitimately that Conor McGregor, who had never boxed in his life, had a chance against the pound-for-pound, arguably, again, greatest fighter of all time. And it wasn't going to happen. But there's a bigger problem here because it ain't about YouTube star versus Mayweather. It ain't about UFC star versus Mayweather. It's a black-white thing. Again, it's a great white hype situation. Jerry Cooney and Larry Holmes was the highest grossing financial fight up until Mike Tyson showed up. Did better than Lewis, Ali, did better than all of those fights, Rumbles in the Jungle, things and all that stuff. Not only is this a joke for the sport of boxing, it brings out the worst in all of us. And don't you dare spend a dime lending any credence to this farce that'll be happening.
If I could put somebody in a DeLorean and go back to 1991, they wouldn't believe exactly what the way sports was back then. Let me take you back to just some of the best things that happened in there. Blue Bloods for college basketball. Duke and Kansas win to the national championship game. Duke wins. This year, Gonzaga goes to the championship with Oregon. Gonzaga in 1991 didn't even have their program set up to win a championship and was a no-name school at the time. Let's go to baseball, where there was a guy named the name of Jack Morris who won MVP for the Minnesota Twins that year. He pitched 10 innings of shutout baseball, whereas a pitcher today will pitch 7 innings of shutout baseball and consider that a complete game win. Twins went on to win the World Series. To Duffy's point, Mayweather versus Paul. Do you know what happened back in 1991? 2 heavyweights, championship fights. Mike Tyson fought twice, and Evander Holyfield fought that year. So did Tommy Hitman Hearns. So imagine getting that, and you get this year. All I'm basically saying is that in 1991, if you were to go back 30 years in a DeLorean, you would think today's sports athletes just are totally different. And they are. I respect what happened in 1991, but we have to move on going forward and just understand that those were great days and those great moments are just there in the past. So if you have a movie idea, this would be the one. And I would put Pat Duffy in it. Would you go back in the DeLorean without the Super Bowl?
So what does or does not constitute a no-hitter? Madison Bumgarner's 7-inning no-hitter doesn't officially count. The definition is murky, and this isn't the first time that baseball has been trapped by its own vernacular. In 1964, Ken Johnson of the Houston Colt 45s, a good uniform to get, by the way, Pat, pitched a 9-inning complete game no-hitter against Cincinnati, but he lost it 1-0 on an unearned run in the 9th. Still, it counts. In 1917, when I was just a child, pitcher Babe Ruth started a game for the Boston Red Sox. He walked the first hitter he faced, confronted the umpire about the strike zone, and got himself thrown out. Enter Eddie Shore. That runner was thrown out trying to steal a base. Shore retired all 26 batters he faced and was credited with a perfect game. That got changed in 1991, and officially Ruth and Shore pitched a combined no-hitter, Ruth having started and walked the only batter he faced. But the mother of all would-be no-hitters was pitched in 1959. Pittsburgh's Harvey Haddix worked 12 perfect innings against the Milwaukee Braves. That should count for something, wouldn't you think? But he gave up a run in the 13th inning. He was still in there pitching. And with it, lost the perfecto, the no-hitter, the shutout, and the game. Still, there is some value in that. 62 years later, we're still referencing it, which is more than can be said about baseball's 307 official no-hitters. That's our unfinished business, and that is our show. Gentlemen, Tariq, thank you very much.
All right, Duffy, I want you to star in this Back to the Future Sports Edition. Would you go back to 1991?
Yeah, I look good in 1991. Look at what age has done to me now, man. Jeez.
But come on, the Bills. I thought you were going to say no.
No, look, man, I've come to peace with that stuff. Plus, I mean, you see how expensive? I can get like a Big Mac for like 59 cents, man.
That's a good point.
Thank you all for joining us. See you again next week on the Rochester Press Box.